Greetings, heathens and heretics, and welcome to another little video, I suppose, isn't it? We
It
bit
is.
bit different this time though.
Um, well, you're over there and I'm over here, so
Yeah,
I
well,
guess
you're
it's
you're at Castle Grayskull, and I'm at Carnbray Castle. So,
yes, yeah,
so
yeah.
anybody in Cornwall will know that is. No one else is going to have a fucking clue. But
No.
but
Well,
yeah,
wherever you are, the weather looks much better where you are. I mean, it's all a bit. I don't know what they say. Red sky at night.
red
Maybe it's a
sky
good
night, isn't it?
sign.
There you go. You're going to have a nice weekend. Um,
Yeah,
Other than that, are you? How are you doing?
I'm all right. Yeah, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, no complaints.
Friday
Really.
afternoon and all that.
Well, exactly. Well, that's it. That always cheers the spirits, doesn't it?
It does. It does. A Friday afternoon beer.
Yeah. Ah, what you drinking? That looks
Well,
delicious.
it's funny you ask because I mean. Um, I'm drinking Prologue from Radio City Beer Works.
Is
So
that a Radio City Beer Works beer?
it is a Radio City Beer Works, but you wouldn't expect that, would you? Fuck
No.
me. Well, it's a damn fine Radio City beer, and it's a perfect, early Friday evening Prologue, sort of just under 4% session IPA, and it's lovely. So get involved at rcbw.shop. Come try it out. You can buy it by the can. So get involved. Anyway, we're going to talk about Slayer, aren't we?
Well, of course we are. Of
You know,
course we are.
not really a grumble, but a bit of a I don't know how cynical are. I don't know this sort of
Well, it's an interesting time, isn't it? Because we thought Slayer was all over.
well, yeah, maybe, but so look, we all know obviously Slayer reformed last year, did a couple of festival shows in the US, didn't they? And it was all marketed to be all very special and all that kind of crap. And now they're obviously doing the Sabbath event in Birmingham, and now there's a couple of UK shows off the back of that. And my view is, and I don't know if you agree, is that I do have a level of cynicism towards this Slayer reunion, which I know a lot of people have, but now
Mm.
with these UK dates, it's right in the forefront now. It's fairly blatant as to how it's been. Now the whole thing seems to have been marketed.
Well, it just seems a bit opportunistic, really, which is fair enough, I suppose, because the tour's been set up around this Sabbath date,
Yeah,
which I think, in any, in any context, I think a lot of bands would have turned up to that if they was invited. I can imagine, all sorts of bands just coming out of retirement just for that one day. That's fair enough. I don't really have an issue with that, but um, I, j- I just think the whole thing with Slayer feels a little bit like a mismanagement. It's erratic and it's odd. Like even when they got back together again last year, the timing of it just seemed bizarre,
yeah,
given that it was what was it the same week that Kerry King released his solo album and
that was
he seemed
really
to be,
strange.
yeah,
Yeah,
he seemed to be about to launch his solo career and it was going to be a new era, I suppose, for all intents and purposes. It was like the next chapter. So it felt like a backward step, which is an odd thing to say when you're talking about Slayer, because Slayer, it's like that. It should be a celebration, right? Slayer coming back. It should be this like, the Kings have returned. Yeah, depending on how you feel about them as a band, but I think it's fair to say they're pretty well regarded.
well,
Um,
they they've had their moments over the years, but I think when you look back at the final tour as we're calling it, ended in 2019,
yeah,
and we're now in 2025, so 6 years on. You've had a couple of years of COVID in the middle of that, so in effect, it almost feels just like it's a bit of an album cycle run. A lot of bands will go 4 or 5 years between releasing albums. Metallica, are a prime example.
yeah,
So I think that's
yeah.
why there's a little bit of kind of, what did they really split up? Did they
Well, that's
really?
it. I mean, that's why for me at least, it felt a little bit underwhelming for them to,
Mm.
to come back as soon as they did. It's almost like, hang on, no, no,
Please
no.
leave it 10 years.
Yeah, just give
No.
it a little bit longer. Um, so yeah, it just seemed odd, which brings me back to the point of, about how the whole thing's been managed. It just feels, I think I said the word already, like erratic, like they're kind of making it up as they go along. It doesn't feel like it's a very well managed
Mm.
return to live performance. Um, and alongside all of that, you've kind of got the sense, there's a lot of mud being slung, in various interviews. I
Yeah.
don't get the sense that they're particularly fond of each other or get on particularly well. And maybe that's the problem with social media and the internet nowadays is a lot of stuff gets said and recorded and put out there, so you really get an insight into kind of
Yeah,
how bands feel
yeah,
about
that's
each other
true.
behind the scenes. So it's difficult to get excited and see it other than, as anything other than a bit of a cynical kind of, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't even, my mind's gone blank.
Move, I suppose, is as basic as you can
Well, a
put it,
cash
really, isn't
grab,
it?
I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
It's a
that
cash
that
grab.
that point, the cash grab point. Now, they've obviously announced these two UK shows. I mean, neither of us are going because both of us are away on holiday. But I don't think I would have gone anyway. I think the lineup's decent, lineup's very good, but it's
Yeah.
it's it's a very sort of downloady type lineup, isn't it? Amon Amarth, Anthrax, Mastodon, Hatebreed, and Neckbreaker. Great to see them on the bill. That's a really good
Mm,
exposure for them. But
yeah.
£100 a ticket, which again for the bands on the bill, I think is pretty decent value.
Yeah.
But in my mind is these two shows are sort of 35,000 cap outdoor
Mm.
venues, one in Cardiff, one in London, Finsbury Park. Would they have been playing shows this big if they hadn't gone through a final ever tour and now a reunion?
That's a very good point. Yeah. Yeah. It's almost by, yeah, it drives the demand up, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Even though they weren't away for that long, it kind of puts them in a different category, doesn't it? It's like, oh, right, it's a reunion tour.
just use that
Um,
word and it just, yeah, you're right. It just throws in a whole different level of marketing.
well, yeah, and I suppose it introduces the idea that it's and maybe it is, but like a temporary thing. So it's like, oh, right, well, if we don't see them this time, it's going to be the last time.
Yeah, yeah.
But when you're a bit long in the tooth like we are, you kind of
Speak for
see it as a bit
yourself.
like, it's just like, oh yeah, okay. But it brings to mind the whole, and I love them to bits. So I'm saying this with a smile on my face, but the whole Black Sabbath farewell tour.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, when I got into Ozzy Osbourne, like I said, when I really kind of fell for Ozzy and everything, he did, it was like round about 92, 91, 92. And then he was on his farewell tour. And I remember thinking,
Jesus Christ.
it was, yeah, it was off the back of No More Tears because it was called No More Tours.
Of course it was. Yeah,
Um, and so the idea was Ozzy was going to go around the world and that was going to be it. And he was probably like, I'm probably older now than he was then.
yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? He was probably somewhere in his 40s or his 50s. And anyway, I kind of I'm going off on a tangent here, but how many times have Black Sabbath or Ozzy done their No More Tours,
yeah.
and then he did No More Tours too. And then they've done the Last Supper, they've done the Final Farewell. I'm making things up now, but so you get to sort of understand that. Okay, you know, do
Yeah,
they
yeah.
mean it?
It's not the first time this has happened, is it? It's nothing new. Bands splitting up and reuniting. I mean, you remember Motley Crue? Remember them signing? Did that whole
Right.
public thing, didn't they? Signing of a contract, we'll never play live again, and all that bollocks.
Yeah, I
That
think I
didn't
went to
last
see
long.
them the next year. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's PR, it's marketing. It's all a scheme just to drive up the demand. And
Yeah,
just as you
yeah,
said, so the crowds get bigger because you build in this idea that, hey, folks, this might be the last time you ever see this band. But yeah, I'm. There are two things. So that being one, that's the reason I didn't jump on this because I thought, that they'll be along or they won't. I don't know, maybe. But more so, as I said, there just it doesn't feel like there's that camaraderie in
yeah,
the band.
yeah,
And that's really what you want to turn up and see.
yeah,
It's one thing to see, a band you like playing songs you like, but in the context of a gig, what really brings that to life is the chemistry between the
yeah.
musicians and
Completely.
seeing that happen in front of you. Seeing that chemistry that they would have brought into the rehearsal spaces and the studios to record that music,
Yeah,
and seeing a band live, that's what you want to tap into. But at this stage in the game, when you've got these bands that are just kind of, they live on opposite sides of the world,
yeah,
they don't really hang out, and then they just get together, rehearse, tour, job done, see you later, gentlemen, off we go. I find it harder to to get with that. I think it's doable. Like, I think Maiden do a good job at that. They're a band
But
that,
it's Maiden, isn't it?
yeah,
You know what
as
I mean?
much as
It's
they scatter themselves around the world
yeah.
the rest of the time and they do their own thing, when they're together, you still get the sense that they enjoy each other's company.
And you've got obviously the spectacle with Maiden as well, which helps, doesn't it? It's all very
Yeah,
interactive between all the members and everything. And but
yeah,
Slayer are very much a four-piece band, singer, guitarist, drummer. It's quite
yeah.
simple. Then they were never the most dynamic live band, I suppose, unless you go obviously right back to the earlier days. But it's
No,
certainly in our era,
no.
they're
And
not.
particularly, I mean, Slayer tend to stick with the sort of festival outdoor format
Yeah,
these days. I saw them once in, I think I've seen Slayer a lot of times, and every time, bar one, I think it's been an outdoor gig, either a festival, well, festivals, yeah. Once I've seen them indoors in Manchester. That was, I mean, I'm trying to think when it was, like 2017 or something, 2000, I don't know, it's going back a few years. Anthrax supported, Clavel Attack were also on the lineup. That was the one time I've seen them indoors, and it was really fucking good,
yeah,
and it makes you realize what a band with Slayer's frenetic energy, in the songs, when you match that with pyro and lighting and
yeah,
screens and darkness,
yeah.
it's quite something to behold.
I remember
So,
seeing them at the Astoria, which would only be
oh
about
shit,
20,
yeah,
about 20 years ago. Yeah,
was that with, I have
2006,
seen
something
him
like that.
indoors with System of a Down and Slipknot.
Oh, that would that's something different. Now the Astoria show I saw, I think the two nights of the Astoria was some shit support band. And
Right.
they were phenomenal because it was so in your face. It was all so close. It was the Astoria, which was always a great venue anyway.
Yeah.
But at the same time, seeing them at Download and things like that, and this is going back 20 years. I haven't been at Download since 2005, and on a festival stage, it seemed a little more formulaic and a little less intense, which it does because it's
Yeah.
outdoors, it's daylight. You can't necessarily blame the band, but I just fear that these two UK shows, they're right at the start of July, so it's going to be daylight all the way up till virtually 10 o'clock. So I think something might get a little bit lost. They will need a pretty big production, I think, to carry it all off.
Yeah, yeah, and hopefully they bring some of that. Um, like you said, maybe they'll step up because it's 30,000 cap.
Yeah,
Maybe they will step up. But I'm just going off down memory lane now because when you making that point about this story, it makes me realise I've seen them indoors more times than I ever remember. I think I've seen them at Hammersmith as well, and the Astoria, and up in Manchester somewhere, some indoor venue. But then my memory of them, interestingly, is a festival band.
yeah.
And I think that's kind of what they became ultimately.
No, they're a safe booking for a big festival, aren't they?
Yeah.
And another thing is these two shows. I mean, they're probably not, but if you think about it logically, this almost puts them into almost like a download headliner kind of or sub headliner kind of slot, which they never were.
No.
So I just don't quite understand how it's all changed. I mean, this is music now, isn't it? This is the way it is. Everything's very zeitgeisty. It's all very instant.
Yeah.
You either jump on it or you don't, and 6 months later it's gone. But I don't know. I mean, look, everyone goes to see them as a fucking ball because there'll be quite a few first timers, I'd imagine,
Yeah. I
which is
mean, for
always
all my,
great. But
I think, yeah, I think that's a lot to do with it. There is that. It is a way for new fans
yeah,
to see a band that, a lot of people talk about and a lot of people credit with creating the scene, really. They're such an important band in the whole
yeah.
thing. So fair play to them. There will be a lot of younger people there. Yeah, it's for all my cynicism, and it's not like a gig that I particularly felt I needed to jump on board with. But I still got a little bit of that's cool, fair enough,
It's a
Slayer.
fucking good lineup. You
Yeah.
can't argue with that. I
No, I
mean,
agree.
I
Yeah,
don't know how they're going to squeeze like all six of those bands into sort of 5 hours essentially or whatever it is, but
yeah.
it's
And for the
Yeah,
London date, I mean, Finsbury Park's a cool venue as well. I've only
yeah.
ever been there once, a long time ago, to see Thin Lizzy of all bands, but it was like the new version
The
with
Ricky Warwick,
Ricky
yeah,
Warwick on vocals, who's put out a new album today, actually, as we record this.
I did see that. Yeah, yeah.
So
Oh,
I'll be checking in with that. But yeah, Ricky Warwick fronted Thin Lizzy at Finsbury Park.
I saw that
Um,
lineup. I thought they were great.
and yeah, yeah, very, very, very cool. But a cool space as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah. Look, if you are going, I hope you enjoy it. I'm sure you will. It's Slayer at the end of the day. They've got the songs when they're banging out "Angel of Death" and "Rain in Blood" and "Seasons in the Abyss" and all those bangers. Then you know sometimes you can't touch them. So yeah. So pardon our cynicism, but we're old, like you said.
I just wish they'd left it a few more years.
Yeah,
You know,
I reckon a decade is the sort of
that's yeah,
prime gap.
that's a comeback, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, bit of that.
that's a comeback. And I think the lesson is if you say you're breaking up, mean it. Like, give it a while, if
Yeah,
it, you know. So then a comeback really feels like a comeback, and also don't slag each other off behind the scenes because then
yeah,
by the
that's not
time you
cool.
do come back, it's like, yeah, you don't want to do this. You know, you've seen an opportunity to make a tax payment or a big, you know, get that pool you wanted
Oh, that's
reskinned.
proper cynical, that is, isn't it?
Yeah,
Isn't it? But there you go. Look, let us know what you think as well. And chuck in the comments below. Are we just being grumpy old bastards? I
of
mean,
course we are.
it
Of
is
course we
possible, but I think
are.
we've got a point. So let us know what you think. And if you completely disagree with us, tell us. We want to know and let's hear people's opinions. And if you're going, let us know. And are you excited by it? So
Yeah.
yeah, all right, that's that. That's grumpy 20 minutes out of the way. So
Ha!
yeah,
Slayer.
exactly. That's what it is, isn't it? That's what you want. It's fucking Slayer. So
Into some of that.
yeah. So yeah, have fun. And we'll see you next week, probably with some other moaning, I'd imagine. Cheers. Stay metal.